so we got 22 players to get through.
Yeah.
Different 11s in both halves. And first player that we're going to look at is Antonin Kinski. Sim gave him a 7. I gave him a 6. I think in terms from like pure goalkeeping, didn't really have that much to do. I don't know if he made one save or not, but he didn't make any difficult saves, that's for sure. What was most impressive about him was his ability to build up attacks from the back. I thought his long-range kicking was really impressive. And yeah, he was just decent from that aspect.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what I'm judging him on when I went in. He was a real part of our build-up play, I felt. And he was almost at times like another outfield player in our build-up, which is kind of what Frank clearly demands and wants. There was one dodgy moment with his goalkeeping. A set piece came in and he kind of hesitated, failed to punch the ball when he came for it, and it actually nearly led to us conceding. But apart from that, he was pretty, untested, didn't have to do much. He played one absolutely beautiful ping to Porro. I think it was off the back of a set piece, and it set us up on a really good attack. And I think he was doing that quite a lot, like some really good drilled passes. I think his technique on his passing just night and day ahead of Vicario. But there was that moment from the set piece, which, Vicario didn't have.
Pedro Porro up next. Sim gives him an 8. I gave him a 7. Yeah, I thought he was one of the standout performers in the first half for sure. Right-hand side, I think a lot seemed to come through him like we saw last season. His ball-playing ability is second to none in the squad, and I think that was on show. Sitting a little bit deeper than a doggy just before the halfway line, but still able to get up and down that right-hand side. He took one whack to the leg where, it could have easily been a sending off if VAR was involved. It wasn't. He got a booking. But yeah, he was causing a nuisance for himself pretty much all throughout that 45 minutes. And I guess like the most impressive thing is just the way he can just ping a ball over the top from deep.
Yeah, and I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of that. Obviously, we actually saw it quite a bit in the back end of last season, didn't we, in that Europa League run? It happened a few times. And I think in his new position now with Frank, kind of tucked in a bit, kind of almost forming a back three when we're in possession. He's kind of the deeper fullback, and I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of those long-range passes. And obviously, he'll have those moments, which he had yesterday, where he was getting up, and actually, when he got the ball, he delivered it early. Didn't try to get to the byline or get too far forward. He gets kind of in that half space, and he looks up and tries to deliver the ball. And with his quality, he's got that ability to pick out a man. Nearly got an assist. Brilliant left-footed cross to the back post. Romero heading it wide. Should have already buried that. So he's got the quality there. It might take a bit of getting used to this new role, but I think good start.
Yeah. Kuti Romero up next. Sim gives him a 7. I gave him a 6. Yeah, look, I think he dealt with the majority that came his way. I don't think he looked like too much under pressure at moments in the first 45 minutes. Was a threat from set piece, or was a threat offensively where he probably should have put the ball in the back of the net, or at least got it on target. And if you get it on target, there's probably a good chance that does go in. But yeah, I mean, he just went through 45 with minimal fuss, really.
I think he's played really well. Passing, fantastic. We all know how good he is with those passes in between the lines. He was actually one of the only ones who we tried these little dinks over the top of the Reading defence quite a few times, and he was the only one who seemed to be able to pull it off. So that was obviously impressive. We know how good his passing range is, and yeah, that's something obviously that sets him apart from our other centre-back options. I thought defensively, really solid. The Reading striker pretty much was in his pocket the whole game. So very accomplished.
Yeah, and Kevin Danso up next as well. Sim gives him an 8. I gave him a 6 again. I thought did really well in his first outing under Frank on the left-hand side of the pair. And I actually felt like a lot of the times that we were building out from the back came from Kevin Danso, and I thought he did a good kind of role from that aspect. And again, like from a defensive capability, aggressive, and nothing really got past him.
Yeah, it was quite interesting with this one. I felt like Danso played obviously the more aggressor, and Romero was a bit more reserved in the partnership. Danso, we know he's very comfortable taking the ball, running into the space, committing players. He's not scared to be on the ball and look for the space. So that's obviously was really good from him. Passing seemed a bit less haphazard, I would say. Kept it a lot simpler. Was very comfortable. So yeah, I think it was a really top performance from Danso.
Destiny Udogie, 8 all round for Destiny. And yeah, I thought he was our standout performer out on that left-hand side. Looking sharp, looking fit, looking on it, causing a lot of problems down that left-hand side. Towards the end, started to have some really good link-up play with Mikey Moore as well. And I just felt like he was a constant threat and a constant nuisance for the Reading backline.
Yeah, and I think looked a lot more comfortable getting wider on that left-hand side. I thought definitely suited him more than maybe inverting and underlapping. I think it was kind of Mikey Moore was kind of tucked inside. He actually had developing decent rapport with Mikey Moore, I felt, on that left-hand side, so that was really positive. And yeah, whenever he seemed to see quite a bit of the ball. Whenever he got it, he was always just going down the line, and he was hard to stop. And I think Reading really struggled to stop him. And I think he looked a lot more comfortable, almost like a wing back. I felt yesterday.
Yeah, definitely. Bentancur up next, 7s all round for Lolo, and I thought out of the midfielders in the first half, I thought he was the most impressive one. All action display, really. He was winning the ball back quite a number of times, trying to drive the team forward, kind of just keep things ticking along as well in the middle of the park. And he was kind of quite deep alongside Papa Matasar in a double pivot. And I thought he was definitely the more impressive of the two.
Yeah, I think, he was the one. Looked a lot more confident on the ball. I think defensively he was decent. Didn't see too many times he was able to, do his trademark kind of carries up the pitch and when he nicks the ball past a player and runs the other way. Saw it once or twice, but not too many times. He was the one tasked with maybe passing the ball, spraying it side to side a bit more, which he did to kind of
mix. Dictating the tempo a bit, wasn't he?
Yeah, and I would say with mixed results. I don't think it was perfect every time, but it was good. It was sometimes good, sometimes kind of average. I think him and Sarr were decent together, nothing too spectacular. Obviously, haven't played in a double pivot together too often, if memory serves me right. Obviously, did with Basuma quite a bit at the back end of last season. So yeah, I thought it was decent.
And Pape Matasar, 6s all round for Pape. And yeah, look, again, I think Pape was decent. Nothing too spectacular. Maybe should have scored, or he had one chance, didn't he, in the first half where he could have put it in the back of the net and put from a point blank range. But yeah, I thought he was full of running, but not too much quality.
Yeah, I think his passing range wasn't quite there. I think he obviously worked very hard and performed a good partnership with Bentancur, but I thought his passing was a bit sloppy, to be honest, and especially when he was asked to do more adventurous stuff.
Yeah. Alfie Devine up next, 6s all round for Alfie. Obviously, the big chance that we did get in the first half did come from a great ball from Alfie, and I thought he was trying his best to be creative, but there were moments in the game, large portions of the game in the first half, where I thought he was going missing a little bit. So, yeah, look, I expect more from Alfie because of what we saw in the pre-season last year, so I think we will see that. And I think we'll see him grow a bit more once he starts to learn the role. But, he was in a pure number 10 position and kind of playing the Damsgaard role, as you like. And I think he did well in moments, but then he kind of went missing in other moments.
Agreed. I think when it came to positioning and understanding the role, I think that was quite positive. I think he kind of understood what he needed to do and was taking up some really good positions, which I thought Reading were struggling to pick him up. And obviously, he nearly got an assist with a really good in-swinging cross, which Solanke maybe should have scored from. And I think he was taking up good positions. I think what he needs to maybe adjust or adapt to is making quicker decisions, being stronger on the ball, making sure he's not so easy to knock off the ball. And I think sometimes he needs to know what he's going to do with it before he receives it. I think sometimes he gets the ball and then he decides. And by that kind of point, it's a bit too late. And is already surrounded and already losing the ball. So I think definitely some adjustments to be made, but I think there were some positives there as well.
Brennan Johnson, Sim gives him a 4, I gave him a 5. He just gets a little bit of leeway from me just because it's his first game back and he did score the winner in Bilbao. So,
how long does he get an extra point for that Bilbao?
Just this one game. But he was poor. No two ways about it. He was poor. I felt like every time he got the ball, it was like a really poor first touch. The ball was kind of bouncing off him. Couldn't get the ball under control. There were a couple of moments where he did look quite threatening, was able to get the ball in the box, but for the most part, it was a really frustrating performance.
Yeah, it wasn't really a goal threat, was he, in this one, unfortunately. Wasn't getting close. Didn't really have too many opportunities to threaten the goal. I would say it wasn't totally his fault that he had a bad game, because I thought there were some moments he was actually making some really good runs and he just wasn't being found, or the pass wasn't good enough. But there was enough opportunities where he got the ball and he was able to run at his man and, create something, do something. And he failed on a few times as well. His touch was off, giving the ball away. It was a frustrating game. The moves always seemed to slow down when it came to him. There was a few times we were flowing, it was good. And then he went to Johnson, it just slowed down. And yeah, it was frustrating.
Mikey Moore on the other side, we both give him a 6. And yeah, I thought he was struggling for the opening half an hour of the game. And then the kind of last 15 minutes, he really came alive. You really started to see link-up play with Destiny Udogie on that left-hand side. And there was one moment where he had like 2 or 3 men around him, and it was like a nutmeg, and he just burst past them all and found his way in the box and put in a ball, I think. And there was another moment as well where, a nice little bit of magic, and he just had a shot blocked. But he was having his best moment basically in the last 15 minutes of that first half. And I was saying to Sim on the watch long, it's a shame that he's going to go off now, because he's really starting to get into the groove.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened, unfortunately, for him. I think, again, some positives, and I think, again, he's another position he's going to have to get adjusted to, because obviously under Ange, he was playing much more of a touchline winger, and on this one, if you will see, and I'll show you in the tactical breakdown, very much more like a little number 10 in the pocket. That's kind of the position he was playing a lot of the time in this game, and I think that's a position that could suit him, actually, being a bit more central, having players nearer who he can link with, and obviously he still has that dribbling ability, which he showed on that one occasion in the game. But also, I thought the position he was taking up, he was getting the ball on the half turn, just looking for that little pocket in space and exploiting it. Unfortunately, his final ball was just a bit off on the occasions he was getting to the penalty area. But I think, again, some positives from Mikey Moore. Execution, and as well, I think he was out the game for way too long. But I think there was some good stuff there.
Big Dom Solanke, the last of the first half players, 6 all round for Solanke. And yeah, I'm seeing Solanke come under a lot of flack for this game, which I thought he was actually decent. I thought he was a threat for most part. I thought he was putting himself about. I thought he was always on the run and always looking for those Porro balls in behind. Yeah, there might have been a little bit of lack of quality inside the box, but I did think, like, as opposed to what he was like under Ange, where he was always dropping deep and coming to link the play together instead of being a threat in the box. I thought he was doing more of that threat in the box stuff in this game. And yeah, there were times he did come deep on a small amount of occasions, but for the most part, I thought he was a really good physical threat in the box.
Yeah, and didn't have too many kind of shots or chances. I mean, I had that one where Devine plays a good ball into him, but unfortunately kind of just gets the finish wrong. He had that one attempted overhead kick, which ended up being a foul. But he was definitely making more runs on the last line. You could see a lot of Porro and some of the field players were definitely looking for him and going directly to him. And what was good was he was kind of making that run, and we were timing the pass quite well, and he was getting beyond the last defender a couple times without. The problem with Solanke, I feel, he doesn't get his shots off quick enough. He always takes an extra touch or waits a bit too long, and a lot of the times his shots end up getting blocked, which is a bit of frustration. He needs to quicken that up if he's going to make that step up to being an elite striker. I think he's got so much to his game, and I think that hold up play, that strength, first touch, all this kind of stuff, it's going to bring a lot to us, but just needs to work on getting those shots off quicker, and then he's going to make that step up. But I thought, look, I don't think it was a bad performance yesterday.
Yeah. And moving on to the second half, I think a bit like last season's pre-season, the second half the players just came alive, and I think it was more of the same in this first game under Thomas Frank. We're going to start off with Vicario. 6 all round for Big Vic. He did struggle with his playing out the back, and I thought, he hit it out. He hit it out once. So did Kinski, to be fair, but he just didn't have that ball playing ability that we saw that Kinski had in that first half. But what he did do well was make a number of good saves in that second half, which we know that's his bread and butter, and that's what he's really good at. So, yeah, I give him credit for that.
Yeah. And there were a couple of good saves, one right at the end from like a 25 yards, a bit of a pile driver. He tipped it wide. And there was one that was kind of deflected, and I think it might be going over anyway, but he tipped over the bar. So he made a couple of decent saves. He just did not look comfortable on the ball, or as comfortable as Kinski, I would say. Didn't really... Kinski seemed like an extra outfield player when in build-up. Vicario definitely seemed like you're passing back to the goalkeeper. I think that's the best way I can kind of describe it. There was a few times where he panicked, kind of went up and under, and he was one as well. He just kept it a lot simpler. I felt like when he was clipping it to the fullback, he would sometimes get it there, but the pass was hard to control. It wasn't the best pass to the fullback, and whereas Kinski would get it right into feet and allow them to stride the ball forward. Whereas when Vicario would pass it to Spence or Davis, they would have to take a touch to get under control and then start to move forward there, or with controlling a difficult pass. So something he's going to have to improve. But yeah, I think we know his goalkeeping ability, shot stopping is fantastic.
Jed Spence up next. Sim gives him a 7. I gave him a 6. There was one really worrying moment where we thought he gave away a penalty at one stage where he got done defensively, to be honest. I think on 2 occasions in that separate move. The penalty obviously wasn't given. I think he just waved play on. But look, I think it was up and down from Jed Spence. I think there was a few bad moments from a defensive standpoint. Didn't go forward too much, but what he did do, he was like a kind of facilitator for Mohamed Kudus, where there was some really nice link-up play from them, and I think that's a relationship that can really flourish, Mohamed Kudus and Spence, and it was good first sight of it.
Yeah, and that's actually I did mention when we were talking about Porro and Johnson. Didn't seem to be much rapport there, but with Kudus and Spence, it was different. They seemed to be linking up a lot better. It was quite interesting, the dynamics, because Spence was kind of playing the doggy role, and then Davis was playing like the Porro role. So they kind of switched up a bit in the for the profiles in the second half, which obviously you got to do when change your players and stuff like that. And Spence was getting forward quite a bit. Don't think he offered too much in a way of attacking. He did have that one chance, didn't he? He got in on goal with I think Bergvall played the ball in behind, and then he was in on goal after a mistake by the Reading keeper. But he should have squared it to Kudus. He didn't, and ended up being saved by the goalkeeper. But I think defensively, by and large, pretty good. He made sure he got that clearance after the Vicario save right at the end. I think got in position well. Yeah, I think he was. I agree with you. He was kind of making the unselfish runs, I would say.
Yeah. Luka Vuskovic up next. He has arrived, people. 9s all round for Luka Vuskovic. What an unbelievable start to his Tottenham debut. First of all, look, the first touch was a bit of a dodgy touch, and you're thinking, all right, this guy's maybe is just a kid playing a man's game, but no, he's not. He's a kid. Well, he's not a kid. He's not. He's a man mountain. He's a man in a kid's, well, I was about to say a man in a kid's body, but he's in a man's body. So I don't even know what I'm trying to say. But Vuskovic is unbelievable, man. First touch, first meaningful touch. He towering header to lay one on for Will Lancashire, who puts it in the back of the net. The second one was a Harry Kane-esque finish into the far corner. So within, 10 minutes of his debut, he's got a goal and an assist to his name. And then he blocks one just in front of Vicario. I think Vicario probably would have got to it. But, you got to make sure to get it clear, and that's what he did. And after that, I thought, he dealt with most things coming his way from a defensive standpoint. He looked really strong. He looked like he had a bit of pace on him as well. So I was really happy with what I saw from Luka Vuskovic. And that finish, wow. It was just wow.
Yeah, that was something which I think blew us all away. What a brilliant, brilliant debut from Vuskovic. Obviously, there's been a lot of hype and talk about him ever since we agreed that deal for what there was then, I believe, a 15-year-old, wasn't he? When we got him from, was it Split?
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of talk about him. Obviously, we didn't know, when you're signing a 15-year-old back 2 years ago, as much as he could be the next best thing, it's all about how he performs when he gets here, and he's had some brilliant loan spells, and unbelievably on his debut, we talk about being a threat, we talk about his goal scoring record, and for him to not only get an assist but score a goal in the fashion he did. And you know what's funny, you look at that goal and how amazing it was. That isn't even the best goal I've ever seen him score. When you've seen that, he scored overhead kicks. There's been clips going doing the rounds at the moment, him shooting from the halfway line and scoring goals. This guy has magic in his boots, and this guy is a special talent. And I know people are going to say it's Reading, you're going overboard and things like that, but it's not just based on yesterday that we're saying this. This was only vindication. Well, I wouldn't say it's vindication, but this was only more evidence, I should say, of how special this player is, and it's just kind of mounting to the mountains of evidence that we've seen. Obviously, I posted a picture yesterday of the leap for the corner. How high he gets is incredible. It's like Ronaldo, how high he gets.
To be fair, he was half the way there with his height anyway.
It's madness. He's got an incredible leap on him, and he was towering above that Reading defender. Brilliant flick on as well. And then the finish on his left foot, on the move, first time, just sweeping into the corner. Literally, that's a finish where you would say Kane, that's a good finish from someone like Kane, let alone an 18-year-old centre-back who's making his debut as well after all the, hype and pressure, whatever. It was phenomenal. And I think after that, what impressed me as well is he didn't let those moments get him overexcited. He just kept calm.
He barely celebrated.
Composed.
He was like,
yeah.
I'm
Well, it
him.
is a friendly, to be fair. But
I know, but if you're like a player that's had a move for Spurs, like he's been wearing Spurs shin pads throughout all his loan spells, and you finally get on the pitch, you do that. Like, I'd be going mental.
Yeah, well, he ain't a Spurs fan, is he? But I think what's impressed me most is, first of all, his dominance in the air when the ball comes towards him, and he was able to mop up for quite a few mistakes, I have to say, that Van de Ven made. And what I was so impressed with is his ability to calmly use his weaker foot in possession when he's playing out the back. He was obviously he's right-footed, and you could see when there wasn't a pass on his right foot on, he would just calmly put it off to his left foot and pass it out wide to the fullback or wherever he is. He's not scared to use that left foot whatsoever. Yeah. And that is something that's really, really positive. And for an 18-year-old to have that kind of composure is phenomenal.
Yeah. And because he can use that left foot so well, like, we're all talking about a potential left side. I know we've brought in Kota Takai, but maybe, Vuskovic and Takai can understudy Van de Ven next season.
I mean, yeah, 100%, because this guy can easily... I think Takai apparently also can use his left foot quite well, but we've seen it already with Vuskovic here, so very exciting.
Next up is Mickey Van de Ven. 6 all round for Mickey. Not the greatest display from Mickey, from his high standards anyway. He was more of the experienced of the back two alongside Vuskovic. But yeah, there were some decent moments, and I think from a defensive standpoint, for the most part, he was all right. But there were a couple of times where he let the ball go in behind him a little bit, and Vuskovic had to mop up for him. But yeah, it was just went through most of the game without too much problem, but it was just a few moments.
Yeah, it wasn't his best display. I think he did make a few mistakes. I think by and large he was comfortable and solid, but I did think there were a few times very un-Van de Ven-like. There was one moment where the winger got away from him, and it looked like he put a challenge in, and he got the ball, and he actually missed it and ended up fouling the winger. I think if that was a Premier League game, he might have been booked for that. There was a couple of moments as well. A long ball comes over the top, and he looks to head it away, and he just gets the header wrong. It goes up in the air, he falls over, and all of a sudden the Reading player picks up the ball, and Vuskovic has to mop up. So a few moments where definitely, if it was Premier League opposition, might have been punished, and got away with it. Maybe it's rustiness, first game back, all that kind of stuff. But you could say there were a lot of players who didn't suffer from that kind of issue. But yeah, he did. It was a bit sloppy, I felt, Van de Ven. But I think by and large it was okay. It was just a handful of moments.
Yeah. Ben Davis up next, 7s all round from Ben, playing at left back. And yeah, I think he did a decent job for the team. I think on a number of occasions he was there to save a few players' blushes in the box. Really strong from a defensive standpoint. Didn't see him go forward too much, but from what he did do, I thought he did it to a really high standard.
Yeah, I was fairly happy with him. Playing at left back, I thought his passing was good. He played some really nice passes over the top for Sonny, who was, didn't make the most of it, but he was getting good spaces, and Dave was doing really well. I actually thought defensively, a few times there was crosses going to the back post, and he was the one, getting it clear, stepping up, making sure that nothing came of them. I thought you could see him on the pitch, shouting, barking orders, organising the defence, making sure everyone was switched on. So yeah, fair play, Davis. It was a good performance.
Lucas Bergvall next. 5s all round for Lucas, and I thought he was really rusty in this game. I think a lot that he was trying wasn't coming off. A lot of the times he was just losing the ball in the middle of the park. His touch seemed off. There were a couple of decent and really nice moments going forward, which you saw. All right, the Lucas Bergvall of old is here, but all in all, his first 45 minutes of pre-season was very rusty, in my opinion.
Yeah, sloppy, giving the ball away, wasn't his confident self. Don't remember too many, you associate Bergvall with him trying things and him being confident, dribbling past players, things like that. Didn't see any of that. There was one moment he had the ball in his own box and gave it away, and we had to mop up that situation. That was a really poor moment from him. He was just very sloppy, really wasn't at it. People quick to remember as well, not only is his first game pre-season, but his first game back from injury as well. He did get injured back end of last season, so he's still obviously getting over that. I don't know exactly how long he's been back from it, but it's his first game since then, so you give him a bit of grace period, but you just have to admit it wasn't a good game from him. That's it.
Bissouma up next. Sim gives him a 7. I gave him a 6. Again, I thought it was a bit up and down from Bissouma. From what he was doing well, he was getting the ball in the box, wriggling out of tight situations and spreading the ball really nicely out to the flanks. But then there were a couple of times in the middle of the park where he just was losing it a bit too easily, to be honest. But I was pleasant. I was happy with his performance, to be honest.
I think it was pretty good. I think there were a couple of things which I didn't like. There was one moment I remember he picked the ball up in the middle of the park and he kind of chops past 2 players, gets into the space like in the kind of central zone, like almost in number 10 area. He's trying to play Son in on goal, like a really simple pass, and he just overhits it. And it was just like so simple to get right, and he just, again, switches off. And there's also another moment where Reading player is kind of trying to get in down the byline. He takes a touch past him, and he just kind of allows him past him and doesn't even foul him, doesn't challenge him. That was frustrating. But other than those couple of moments, which again is classic Bissouma, switching off, I thought he was actually really good. I thought when he was getting the ball, he was confident, he was turning, he was demanding the ball, he wasn't scared about being pressed, he was popping it off one first time to other players around him as well. So I thought it was actually pretty decent from Bissouma by and large.
Mohamed Kudus, Sim gives him an 8, I gave him a 9. First game, first goal contribution, got an assist for that brilliant goal for Luka Vuskovic. It was nice to see them two linking up on both of their first appearances for Tottenham Hotspur. But I think this guy was an absolute breath of fresh air. When you look at him compared to what we saw from Brennan Johnson out on that right-hand side, it was night and day, to be honest. Like Brennan Johnson, I thought was like a bit scared to take on his man. Mohamed Kudus didn't need a second invitation. He was
scared not to take on
exactly. You know what I mean? He was getting the ball, just driving us forward at every opportunity. There was one standout move on the right-hand side with him and Spence, but it was mainly him. But Spence was like the kind of facilitator in that role where he just burned past 2 or 3 players in a few separate actions. But it was just a bit of a sign of things to come, in my opinion, from Mohamed Kudus. I think on the break he's just so dangerous, isn't he? Just picking up the ball, and Reading just couldn't handle him. They just could not handle him. I want to see him be more of a goal threat in certain situations. So I think from a first 45, I think I've overrated him a bit just because it's just like a bit of a fresh air and first game, and I'll rank him more harshly as games to come. But from the first 45, I was absolutely delighted with what I saw.
Yeah, very positive, very positive. I thought also, he was our set piece taker, was taking quite good corners, and he was doing some good stuff there. I thought it was interesting for the first 10 minutes, obviously, where his corner led to the goal and he got an assist. I actually thought he was quite quiet for those first 10 to 15 minutes in general play. Like, we weren't actually getting the ball to him too much, and whether he was figuring out his position, because he was actually taking, what was interesting, he was kind of taking the Mikey Moore role that Moore kind of picked up on the first half, tucking inside in that 10 role. And Son was kind of getting the Johnson role where he was kind of stuck to the touchline a bit. And I think maybe it took a bit of time for Kudus to adjust to that. But once he was getting involved, he was a box of tricks. And it seemed as though every time he got the ball, Reading just either had to foul him or they couldn't stop him. There was obviously the one moment where he linked up with Spence down the line, beating 3 players and bursting into the box. And actually, not only did he burst into the box, but he picked out Donley as well, who probably should have done better with his opportunity. So good decision-making. Good decision-making for the assist he got as well. I think maybe even Kudus of the last season, when he picks up the ball there, does he try and go on the outside and shoot and try a low percentage effort or something like that? I really wonder if, how Frank is known for getting their players to kind of play that extra pass and make sure that opportunity is like a higher XG opportunity by playing the extra pass. I wonder if Kudus is really going to benefit from that kind of philosophy and that getting drilled into him. And maybe we're already seeing elements of that, because I thought some of his decision making was decent. Like picked out his man a couple of times where maybe last season he would have picked the wrong decision. And yesterday he was picking the right decision. I agree with you though. I don't think he had a shot at all or anything like that. So want to see him maybe try get a few more attempts on goal. You know he's got that ability to just cut inside and shoot, and it's going to be very hard to stop. So once he's got that on lock, it's going to be devastating. But I think from what we saw yesterday, his dribbling was fantastic, and some of his decision making in terms of setting teammates up, really good.
Jamie Donley up next in the 10, who came on for Alfie Devine. Sim gives him a 7. I gave him a 6. And I think he looked more of a threat than Alfie Devine. I know I've given them the same rating, but in my opinion, it's like Donley's like a high 6 and Devine's like a middle to low 6. But I think with Jamie Donley, what we saw is his ability, his ball playing ability is much higher, in my opinion, than Alfie Devine. I think Donley is, a bit more advanced in terms of where they're at this moment in time. And I thought he was getting himself more involved. He was a threat, could have scored as well. We know as well with the chance that he had, with the magic that he has in those boots, he's well within him to put it in the back of the net from where he took that shot from. So yeah, a bit disappointed he didn't get that one on target. But yeah, I was happy with Donley. I want to see more, and I'm expecting more.
Yeah, I think it was really positive. I think he was a lot more involved than Devine. What I think the big difference between him and Devine is he was making decisions a lot quicker. He was doing one-touch little touches, flicks to Son, getting the ball moving. He wasn't taking a touch and making a decision. He seemed to know what he was going to do before he picked up the ball. That was the big difference between him and Alfie Devine, and that was very much more impressive from Jamie Donley. He had that one absolutely wonderful switch of play to Son, which Son should have done better with. And I agree with you. He had that shot which he took on and got deflected. I actually think if you watch it back, he probably should have played Son in. Son was right free there on the left, and if he just lays it in, Son can just stroke it home first time instead of taking a shot with 2 defenders ahead of him. So I think probably picked the wrong decision there, but I'm not going to begrudge him too much. We know he's got a good left foot. So I thought really good, really positive actually. Very impressive. I thought he fitted in well, to be honest, into the team. He didn't look out of place at all. And I thought, whereas Devine had his struggles, I thought he was actually looked at home there.
Yeah, I do tend to agree with that. With last but not least, the captain, Son Heung-min. Sim gives him a 4. I gave him a 5. It was fairly poor from Sonny, to be honest. He just didn't look right from the get-go. Like, it's not that smiley Sonny which we're accustomed to seeing. He looked really frustrated on the pitch. I thought his shoulders were slumped, head was low. There just seemed to be something off with Sonny in the game yesterday, and it wasn't just how poor he was on the ball. I just felt like there was just something about him that just didn't seem right, to be honest. And I don't know what it was. Is it something to do about his future? I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and start talking about that. But from him, in terms of what he produced on the pitch, I mean, he did have moments to run at his fullback and provide some really decent gameplay. But I just felt like, for the most part, he was found wanting, to be honest. I don't think he was dangerous at all.
Yeah, it was not good from Son, I have to say. I hate to say it, because I love Son and I want him to play well every game, but he didn't play well in this game, and then we just got to face the fact every time he did get the ball, he either got tackled or he was forced backwards, which is not what you want from him. I think he got to the byline once, but I think both times he was able to get crosses in, they were both cleared away, although I think one of them led to the corner, which obviously we scored from, but that's not much to shout about. He was just out of sorts. There was a couple of that Donley time he switched the play, plays a beautiful switch to Son, and Son just his touch was off, and the defender steps in and tackles him. He just wasn't able to affect the game as we should. I wonder if maybe he's frustrated because we know that And used him as a touchline winger, and then Frank used him as a touchline winger yesterday. So I wonder if that frustrated him a bit. Does he thinking like, am I doing this again? Am I going to have to do another season of playing this role? Maybe if he's partnered with Johnson, maybe he would be the one in the 10 and Johnson would be the one out wide. So maybe it changes it up a bit. So maybe it's just the fact that he was partnered with Kudus on this occasion that he had to do that role. But I wonder if, we hoped that Frank coming in would mean he wouldn't be doing that role as much, and he found himself back out there again. So I wonder if there was a frustration there.
I don't know, man. Like, it's just not something you associate with Sonny to look like that on the pitch. and it was just a bit hard to watch, to be honest. It really was. And even if it is like 45 minutes as a touchline winger in a preseason friendly, like, you don't expect to see such frustration just because of that. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but let's hope that we see a better and a more happy Sonny next weekend. Now, really, the last but not least is Will Lancashire. 6s all round for Will. Got his goal, which was great. Poacher's effort at the back post. But apart from that, I don't really remember seeing him too much.
Yeah.
I think he was kind of like invisible throughout the game, apart from in that moment. But look, strikers score goals, and he did that.
Definitely, and he took it well. Did well to get in front of his defender and made sure he got the header. Good finish. But yeah, he just tried to lead the line. There was a few times we tried to play the ball in behind, but he just wasn't able to get there, or the ball pass wasn't good enough. He saw very little of the ball. I think actually he had 9 touches that whole half. Saw very little. Which sometimes that happens with a striker if they're not, physically strong enough to dominate their opponents and stuff like that.
He is physical though, like he is quite big and physical.
Yeah, but he just wasn't able to dominate them, or he wasn't getting the service, or he kind of struggled to really get involved other than the goal.
Yeah. But look, that is it. That is your player ratings. 22 players rated. Let us know if you agree or disagree. Put your ratings in the comments section below.